Hello, creepy kids! This is Aidan. We are back to the drawing video series. We are back to the wonderful world of Ray Harryhausen, and we are going all the way back to the 1950s to draw a monster that I'm genuinely surprised has taken me this long to get around to doing for the creature video series. That is, of course, the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. Now, all of us old school monster movie lovers know this movie. It is one of the best examples of both Ray's dinosaur films and Giant Monster on the Rampage films, two subgenres of science fiction that he did astonishingly well and really left his mark on. But today I mostly want to talk about why this film isn't really as loved and revered as a lot of other monster movies in the 1950s. Chief among them, the film that it had a big part of inspiring, that is of course Godzilla. And it seems like any time Beast from 20,000 Fathoms is really talked about, it's only in regards to its influence on Godzilla. Now, anybody who knows the history of both the Beast and Godzilla knows that it did play a big part of influencing it, to the point where I've heard that Ray Harryhausen himself kind of held a grudge against Toho and Godzilla for sort of stealing his thunder. I have not seen any sort of official statement he made on that, so if anybody knows if that's an actual quote from an interview or a book, please let me know, otherwise it's just conjecture. It does seem a little unfair that such a good movie has largely been overshadowed by arguably a better movie, but that's a big point for debate. Why did Godzilla become such a huge success and such a major international pop culture icon, whereas The Beast is really only largely remembered by just those of us crazy old folks who remember and love these old movies? I guess it's for a few reasons. I mean, you could start with the origin of how The Beast comes to be. Now, Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, I forget if it is the first movie that uses atomic energy as the origin of the monster. That's a pretty big topic, and I don't know if I'm qualified to really talk about the bomb and its history on film, but I will say that at the very least we know that it is what revives the Rhedosaurus, and it is what gives Godzilla his horrible powers. The obvious difference between the two is that the atom bomb with the Rhedosaurus is really just a means of getting the ball rolling on the story. It revives the creature and it gives it its deadly radioactive germ powers, but other than that, it really doesn't play a huge part, whereas with Godzilla, of course, it is a huge part of that story. It's a huge part of the character, and it's really a huge part of the legacy. So whether or not Godzilla just handled such a serious subject as well as it did as compared to the Rhedosaurus, which is really just using it almost like the Marvel superheroes of the 60s, where radioactivity would give you spider powers or green skin instead of slow death. I guess another point to make is why Godzilla was able to come back as many times as it did as opposed to the Rhedosaurus is suitmation ultimately was much easier and faster to film than stop motion, which obviously took a lot of time and expense and effort to do, which is probably why we didn't really see Beast from 20,000 Fathoms sequels, unless if you kind of want to count the giant behemoth and Gorgo in there, which is very loosest in the sense. And Gorgo, of course, was also suitmation. But in the end, who knows? Maybe the best sign of respect we can give to the Rhedosaurus is just to discuss it outside of Godzilla and really just talk about the creature in the film itself. As far as Harryhausen goes, the Rhedosaurus is an excellent creation. Both its design is beautiful and the animation for it is really well done too. The Rhedosaurus, what's interesting about it is, going back to Godzilla for just a moment, unlike Godzilla and a lot of the kaiju that followed afterwards, which were very anthropomorphized, they had a lot of human traits and a lot of human behavior. The Rhedosaurus is very much an animal. It behaves in very much the way that a giant animal in such an environment would act. Supposedly, I don't know, I haven't seen any dinosaurs running around. But it is very believable. That is really a big part of the Rhedosaurus's appeal, is that even if it was not an animal that actually existed, you could almost believe that it did. The Rhedosaurus's design is really well done. If you can imagine a quadruped theropod or even a carnivorous sauropod, there's a throwaway line in the movie that says that the Rhedosaurus is an ancestor of some sauropod species. But it is still very well done, and if you're a dinosaur lover, it probably isn't too much of a stretch of the imagination to assume that the Rhedosaurus probably could have maybe existed, maybe kind of sort of, I don't know, whatever. The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms is still a solid movie. It's still fun to watch. It's still really amazing to take in all of Ray's skills. And ultimately, even if the film itself isn't really as remembered as it should be outside of its influence on so many other films, I mean, look at the friggin' TriStar Godzilla and tell me that's not just a straight-up remake of The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. I think it's safe to say that it left its mark on the genre. The Beast crawled so that a lot of other monsters could run, stomp, fly, smash, and destroy. Ray, thank you so very much for that. And of course, thank you to all of the Monster Kid fans who have kept this film alive. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed. Rock on, kids. Bye-bye.